Welcome to Surpass Cloud. As a former Surpass for Windows user, there are some differences you should be aware of as you begin using Surpass Cloud. There is no way a short video can begin to delve into all the new features and functions of Surpass Cloud. However, we will spend a few minutes looking at some of the changes and some of the upgrades. And of course, our rich help documentation is always available, and the support team can be reached Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30 Eastern Time. One of the first things you will notice is that you will log in a little bit differently than you did before. If you had been using the admin login. In Surpass for Windows, many users just used the default ADMIN and then a password. Some people didn't even have a password and they just left it blank and clicked OK. But in Surpass Cloud, each user will enter their own Patron ID or Patron username or your email and a password. And the system will recognize permissions that are associated with that patron record and will allow access accordingly. Those permissions are called roles. They were called security levels in Surpass for Windows, and they're a little bit different now, but we do have a separate tutorial video available in the help documentation explaining how to set up and assign roles. The next thing that you will notice is the home screen is now called the dashboard, and it has more information than the home screen of or home page of Surpass Central. On the dashboard, you will still see the number of materials and the number of patrons, and you will see your calendar. But we have the addition of some colorful graphics depending your circulation stats for the past month. And here you have boxes that will show you at any given time the number of materials you have out, the number that are overdue, holes that are ready for pickup. So this would be holes that patrons have placed using the OPAC, and those books they're not checked out. They're actually in the library ready for you to pull and hold those for the patrons. And also the amount that you have for fines that are due. Notice that each of these boxes has a button that says View List. What that will do if you click View List is it will jump over to the reporting section, to the appropriate section, where it will run a specific report where you do not have to set up any parameters or change any settings. If I click here, it is going to jump over to the report for the list of materials that have been placed on hold and who has them out. And so for each of these, it's just a quick link to the report that pertains to that particular section. As always, Surpass has a fantastic help documentation. The help button is in the upper right-hand corner. And if we click on that, we see several things to choose from. At the bottom is where you can call support. This gives you the phone number. You can open a chat session. You don't have to go over to the support site to do that. These are just quick links over to those things. You can go to your support tickets, or you can even click here and create your own support ticket. At the top is where you actually will go over to the help documentation. If you click help with this page on any page that you are looking at, then it will open the user's guide to the appropriate section. So we were on the dashboard, we clicked help, so it's going to open to the user's manual or the help documentation about the dashboard. Once you have opened help, it opens in a separate tab. Once you've opened help, then you are in the full help documentation and you can navigate through that. So you can see there's a section called Getting Started, and then when you click on Using Surpass Cloud, there's just a few things about, getting set up and getting started and that type of thing. And then you can click on each of these sections and navigate through. Down here at the bottom, we do have a section called tutorial videos, where we will be creating and adding quick videos very similar to the video library that we had in Surpass Central, Surpass for Windows. Just quick 5 to 6 minute videos, how to do this, how to do that. The other thing, when you click the help button, sometimes there'll be a red dot pop up beside the help button, and that means we've added something new. So when you click on the help button, this will be red where it says what's new. And when you click on what's new, you will get a list of every new feature or function that we have added since the release of Surpass Cloud. So it's like getting a present. When you see that red dot, that means we've added something and you need to know about it. Some of those things might pertain to you and other things may not. So it might be something that's been added, such as OCLC integration. Of course, you would have to be a subscribed member of OCLC in order to take advantage of that. But if you are, then there it is. And you can just click through here or scroll through and you can see things that we've added. Most of these things are things that people have asked for, features that people said, hey, it would be nice if we had a button that did this. Or wouldn't it be great if there was a report that would give me this piece of information without me having to create a custom report? So you can just scroll through here and see a lot of new things that have been added. Which is also good because as soon as something new comes out, this video is going to be a little out of date because we wouldn't have included that in this particular video. So always take advantage of when you get that little red dot, click here and find out what's new in Surpass Cloud. All right, the menu for Surpass Cloud is on the left, just like it was in Surpass Central. We did change the word materials to resources, and when you click on it, you get the expanded menu and you still see the items that we had listed before. We do have something extra called bulk updates, which we will take a look at in just a minute. And instead of having the word add edit here, we have the word view. And when you click on view, then you are in the resources section where you can view your resources, you can add resources, and you can edit resources from this particular place. The biggest change in resources is the ability to add materials using Copycat or features like Copycat. We don't call it Copycat in Surpass Cloud, we just call it cataloging sources. But instead of having to open a separate piece of software and then doing your work and sending that information over to the main part, then it's just all built in. So this is your list of materials that you have. You can sort the list just like you could in Central. You can search. One nice thing that we changed is before in Central, if you were searching by title, you would have to choose that you wanted to search by title, put the title in. A few minutes later, if you wanted to search by a barcode number, you would have to change it to search by barcode number. But now you can actually choose multiple things to look at, and no matter what you type in, the system will be intuitive enough to look in all of these areas and search. So if I typed in a title and then a few minutes later I came in and typed in a barcode number, it would be searching all of these and it would locate anything that that was a match with any of these searches. So that's a nice little feature. All right, over here in the upper right hand corner where it says add new, this is where you will add new materials, not by importing them. If you bought books and got your MARC records from a vendor, that is still under the import feature, just like it was in Central. But if we click add new, we get the option to add by ISBN or by author title, which is the same thing that you would have done if you were using Copycat. It's just you would have had to open Copycat separately, and we'll take a look at this in just a minute. Or you can use a blank form, and this is just where you get, you pick out the forms that you have created, and whatever you created in Central will transfer over to Cloud. And so if I was just, going to pick out one of these and said, oh, let's use the blank form for DVDs or for books, then you just get the blank form. It looks a little bit different. Actually, most things, it's just a little bit bigger on the screen. So you still have the same fields and the same options. It's just a little bit different. Visually, it's just bigger. You can click on add new and you can scan an ISBN, or you can type in an author and title, and then whatever databases you have preset that you wanted to search in, just like you did in Copycat, it's going to search those databases and it will bring back the results And then just like before, if you need to edit it or edit anything in the holdings, then you will do so, click save, and it's a part of your system, but it's just all built in now. So it's just that the feature is now all inside of the main administrative portion of Surpass Cloud and makes it a little bit more convenient to do that. Another change in resources, let's click on this one, is if an item has never ever circulated and you want to delete that record from your system, maybe the book is old, outdated, torn up, whatever, lost, and you want to get rid of it. If you click the edit button in holdings, and if the X is red, it means that book has never circulated. And all you have to do is click the X and it says, you sure you want to delete this resource? You click yes, you have deleted that resource. However, if you click on a book and that you enter a book, you search for a book that you want to delete, and you find when you go to the edit button in holdings, you find that material, oh, that one has a red too. Let's see if we can find one that has a gray button. Let's see. All right, if I click on the edit button here, no, they're red also. Well, anyway, if you click on one that has a gray button for the X is grayed out and you can't click on it, then that means that the material has a circulation history and you cannot delete the item. Here's one, the X. That means there's a circulation history. And this is also something new in the view of the resources, is instead of having the tabs at the bottom to click on and say, you know, I want to look at the circulation history, I want to look at, you know, whatever, then it's just all under here. And you can see those things without having to click on tabs. But we can see here that the X's are gray. That means there is a circulation history and you can't delete it from the system. What you would do is you click on status and you change it to withdrawn. Now, for all intents and purposes, it is gone. It is deleted from your system. You can throw the book out, do whatever you want to do with it, but it will not show in the catalog. You don't have to have it appear in reports. You don't even have to have it show on the screen once you've withdrawn it. But there are some very good reasons for materials that have a history not to totally be deleted. One of those reasons is patrons can now look at their history of things they have checked out. They can log onto the OPAC and they can view what they currently have out, but they can also view their history. And so we don't want to delete items. Another thing is people were sometimes reusing barcode numbers, and that's very confusing to the system when it's trying to reconcile information within the system in the background. So here is a barcode number that has a history. You delete it and then you reuse that barcode number, or you change information and reuse that barcode number, then the system is not accurate anymore. So that's one big change that we made, but it's just something you have to get used to. It's not a change that's going to affect the way that you handle your library or work in Surpass. It's just something you need to remember. And of course, if you see it is gray, then there's really nothing you have to remember except, oh, okay, I can't delete it here. I just come over here to the status and mark it as withdrawn and save that. And now that one is, basically out of your system, but not really. It's back there in the background so that the system can make sense when it's running reports and people are checking history and that type of thing. All right. That's pretty much the changes. Again, visually, it looks a little bit different. But of course, if you see something on here that you're not really sure of, you can click the help button and get there. Another thing is the different ways that you can view the system are still at the top, but you can look at it in basic view. This is pretty much what the patrons are going to see in the OPAC. Full record is just that. They see the mark fields, and detailed mark, they're going to see fields and subfields. And form view is, of course, that template that you're used to using. It's still set up the same way. All right, on some pages, when you click the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner, on all pages, you're going to see a breadcrumb trail of where you've been. So it's going to be the last 5 or 6 items that you've looked at, and the same thing with the last patrons that you have viewed. But some of them will have a settings option, and when you click that, you will just have some settings that you can make from that page. So for example, if I don't want to see the edit log, which is just this information at the bottom, and it will list who was logged in and performed an edit on this particular material. You can't see a specific edit like, oh, they capitalized this word, or they, changed a spelling, something that was misspelled. But you can see who added it, edited it, or deleted it, and when. If you don't want to see that, if that means absolutely nothing to you, then just toggle that option off, and now you don't see that. If you don't want to see the circulation history, you do the same thing. So you just view what you want to view. And these are just quick jumps over to settings that you can also find over here in the navigation. All right, let's look at reports. We did not take away any reports. They pretty much behave exactly the same. We did make a couple of enhancements, and we added a report. Because you can't delete materials and things are going to be withdrawn, we made a pre-built report for withdrawn resources so that you can come back and easily just click on that and say, okay, I would like a report of everything that I withdrew this summer or this semester or this year or this month or this week, whatever. You get to set the date parameters on that, and then you will get a list of what you have withdrawn. Custom reports will not transfer over from Central. However, before you migrate, it's a good idea, if you have built custom reports and there are some that you have built that you would like to use once you switch over to Central, just go to that design step. I think it's step 2 in your custom reports for each of the reports, and just screenshot that design so that you can see what columns and what options you have set, and then you can recreate those by clicking here and just starting a new custom report, and you can just recreate those. One change that we did make is anytime, well, actually 2 changes, but they're nice enhancements. If I clicked on barcode labels and I was about to run 100 barcode labels, and I start that report, and then somebody comes in with their class and it's like, okay, they're ready to start checking in and checking out books. Before, you would have to just leave that section and lose that, that report where you were and start back over when you had time. But now it says a little box will pop up when you start your report, and it will tell you that you can move on to other sections of Surpass, and that you'll be notified when your report is ready. And so you'll get a little pop-up box when your report is ready, and that report will stay at the top under resource reports, and it'll do the same thing in patrons and circulation. It will stay at the top under an area called my recent reports, and it will stay there for 24 hours. So if I started that barcode label report but really didn't have time to print them out because I had classes coming in, then when I had a few minutes and could print those out, then all I have to do is just click here, and it brings up the report that I previously created. I wouldn't have to go through all the steps again and pick out which barcodes and what information I wanted and that type of thing. So that's a nice little enhancement. You would just click on it or download it, and it'll be saved as a PDF, and then you just go straight to the print options. So you don't have to stay with it. You can move on once you've started the report, and the other enhancement is it will save a report that you have created, and it'll be there for 24 hours. And we added the withdrawn resources. Just remember, you will have to recreate your custom reports. Alrighty, importing your records from a vendor that's basically just like it's been before. Inventory is super easy. You just click Take Inventory and you begin scanning your books or your materials. You don't have to scan your whole library in one swoop. You can break it into sections and say, okay, I'm only going to scan my reference books. So just go scan your reference books. Now you want to run a report on your missing items. So you go over to your missing items report. Come on. Okay, I guess it's because I didn't scan any materials. But anyway, then here you will you will have the option to choose which report you want. So instead of doing all resources, I would simply click on run the report for reference books. And so it would just do a report of what I'm missing in the reference section. All right, bulk updates is something brand new, and I really like this new addition. This is where you can change the status of a group of materials without having to go into each individual record. For example, maybe you had a few hours and you said, I'm going to weed my reference section, or I'm going to weed my easy books. You go through, you pull off a bunch of books, or perhaps you have a box where as you come across books that are damaged or, whatever, you don't have time to weed them now out of the system, but you just, have a nice collection of books and it's time to weed them. You can come over here and say, I want to change the status in bulk, and I'll mark them as withdrawn. And now I take that stack of books and I just scan. I don't have to go into each individual record. As I scan it, it withdraws it from the collection. That is a very nice feature that has been added. All right, in Patrons, not a lot of new things. Again, it looks just a little bit different, but you still view your list. You can search for a person, and again, you can search using several different parameters at the same time. Once you have clicked on somebody, you see their record. Before, there were tabs at the bottom to see what they had out and any notices that you had sent and that type of thing. Here you can see what they have out, and you can see the history of things that they have had out in the past. If there are things on here that you don't use or you don't want to see, again, click here, click settings, and say, you know what, I don't want to see a list of notices, and I don't keep up with family relationships here, so now I don't see those things. I mentioned earlier that when you put somebody in, they will have a specific role. Of course, your patrons will just be patrons. Your role will be administrator. So that is a new word that you see there. And if I click edit, I will see other options that I have, just like you have now with the different custom fields for your patrons. So all of this will transfer over. The only thing you're going to have to change is for anybody that is has a patron record, that's somebody that works in the library, you will need to decide what their role is. If they're going to have the same permissions that you do, then you'll mark them as an administrator. Again, we have a video on roles, which will help out just a little bit. If you want to add a new patron, you just click Add New. You bring up a blank patron record, you fill it out just like you did before and save it, and there you have your patron added. All right, running reports on patrons. We did not add or take away any reports. Again, if you start a report, you can walk away, you can come back to it later, and reports that you've run in the last 24 hours will be up here at the top. One thing that we did do is we added the ability to schedule certain notices. People have asked for this for a long time, and now it will happen. So if I said that I'm going to email overdue notices, maybe I don't want to send first reminders and second reminders. If I do, I just check it. I get to decide whether these notices go out when their item is 1 day overdue or 2 days overdue. You get to decide. So you can say first notices, second notices, third notices, and you can either create those now and it emails them, or you can click create automatically and tell it to run the report every day of the week, and it will do this between midnight and 5 a.m. or choose a particular day. Somebody is not going to get an email notice every day. It's just if my book is going to be 1 day overdue on Thursday, then Thursday I will get an overdue notice. I don't get another emailed overdue notice until it is 7 days overdue or whatever I set that as. Same thing with third notices. So you're not getting an email every day if you have an overdue book, unless you have checked them out on different days and you've got one due Monday, you've got one due Tuesday, and you've got one due Wednesday. But you can set this to be automatic. You can also choose to do paper notices for people that do not have emails. Now, it is not going to print in the middle of the night with nobody there. What it will do is it will run the report, and you will have a little box down here that tells you how many notices are queued for printing, and then you will have to manually click on that and print those. But if you've got emails in the patron record for all your patrons, then you could just email those. If you never email and you just want to do paper whenever you want to, then you just run it like you've always done. So the enhancement is you can create them automatically. Very nice. All right, importing patrons. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This will be something for you to decide how you've always done it, and if you want to do it the same way or if you want to make any changes. So basically, you've got several ways to get patrons into your system. One, a new kid comes, you can just add them to the system manually if you want to. The other way is perhaps you purchased a PIM port from us. If you are using a Surpass PIM port, it will be a file that you use that has the extension .def. And it will probably have your school name or either the word PIM port and .def. If that's true, we'll just make sure that we get that from you when we set you up in Cloud, and then you just choose that PIM port and do the same thing that you've always done. Perhaps your IT people have done this for you. Another thing that you can do is you can build your own CSV file as an export from your student information system. You can download a sample by clicking here, and it will show you a sample of what the CSV file is supposed to look like. Of course, you can click the help button and get a little bit of help there. You can also call our support team, and they'll be glad to walk you through some of that. Another feature will be released sometime in the near future that will interface with some student information systems, and there will be an option to utilize this particular feature. It's not available yet, so I can't show it to you or tell you about it, but of course, maybe it'll be one of those red dots pretty soon, and you'll be able to if your student information system is in that list, you'll be able to use that feature. So you've got a lot of different ways, but don't get hung up on this. It's not a lot different than what you've done. It's just laid out a little bit differently, and our support team can help you with that. All right, let's look at circulation. Nothing really is new as far as circulation goes. There's a few things that I do want to show you. It looks different. The tabs are at the top instead of at the bottom. You still can search for a patron by various ways. You can type in their number or scan them, and it will bring up that particular patron. It will give you notification if they have a book out or have a balance, or it'll even warn you if you set it to do this, that they don't have an email address on file. So you might want to stop and say, hey, I'd like to get your email if you have one. And that way you can send them those overdue notices. Another thing is when you finish with this patron, you've done everything, you've checked them in, checked them out, you've, looked to see if they have anything on hold, you are completely finished with this patron. you can click Switch Patron, or you can hit Escape on your keypad, and it clears it to make it ready for the next patron. And when it does, if you have a particular setting set to do this thing, then it will automatically email them a receipt. That is awesome. Email them a receipt that says, today you checked out the following. And we'll look at that in just a minute. You have control over what will be on that receipt. So that is something new. Also, when you have a patron record brought up, and if you just clicked on patron status, and you can see they have things on hold, you can check it out from here just by clicking on it, and you can say check it out. You can also print a hold slip if the patron is not in here. Maybe you just check that book in and got a notification pop up saying this is being held for Julie Stevens. Then you could easily come over here, confirm that, and print out a hold slip, so you've got the material with a note on it saying that this item is holding. Also, if you click on an item that they have out, perhaps they left it at home, they just want you to renew it for them. From here, you can renew it. You can declare it lost. This is something that we added. You can mark the condition of a book and say that you need to record a damage. You knew that it had some torn pages from before, but now you would like to add maybe the book jacket was damaged. You could type a description. You could make somebody be responsible for it. And if you save that, then that will be a part of that patron record, as well as marking that that item has damage. So if I click on it here now and click condition, I see that I recorded pages were torn back in October, and today I marked that it had damage on it. All right, pretty much everything else is the same. Reports, we didn't add any new or take away any circulation reports. They're the same as before. It's just keep in mind that it will keep a list of your most recent reports for 24 hours. Bulk updates, right now, the bulk update that we have under circulation is you can set it to cancel holds, or you can manually do that, so that if a book has been holding, I mean, this would probably be especially true for public libraries. If a book has been holding for 14 days and nobody's come to pick it up, you can tell it to cancel that hold. Or if you mark a patron as inactive, if it's in a school and a student moves away and you mark that student as inactive, or somebody comes in and says, hey, moving out of state and I'm not going to be using your library anymore, you can tell it to cancel holds for people who have been marked as inactive. You can tell this to happen automatically at night, or you can just run that whenever you decide that you want to run it. So it will cancel holds for you. All right, that's pretty much the features that are different for resources, patrons, and circulation. Let's take a quick look at some settings. When I click on resources, these are, we've got a couple of new things, but for the most part, it's what you're used to seeing in Central. Cataloging sources, I mentioned, is what we now call the copycat functions, copycat features. So here you can see the libraries that I have chosen to search. If I said, you know what, I never find anything at the Brooklyn Public Library, so I'm going to get rid of it. Or if you need to add a database for whatever reason, you can click here. You can see that we've got 399 more databases to choose from. You can sort those if you want to. So I could sort by type, and I could see, here's law institutions, here's lower education, here's medical libraries. Or I could say recommend children's books or recommend self-help books. And so it's not recommending the books, it's recommending libraries where you would find self-help books. So if you said I wanted to add Berkeley, you just click there, and now Berkeley is a part of your search. Follow the same rules as you would have with Copycat, in that don't pick too many, because literally it's going to search their database to find that record. And if it has too many databases to search, it's just going to take too long. So, 4 or 5, 6 max. You can always come back and get rid of some and add some. All right. And if you want to read up on a little bit more about some of the settings, of course, click the help button. It will open the user's guide to cataloging sources and will give you all the information you need to make this work for you. Okay. Categories, these are whatever you had in Central is going to transfer over. It's the same thing. This is where you decide on your categories and whether they're visible in the catalog and what icon you use for it and that type of thing. So it's just a matter of editing or adding a new category. Collections is just lists that you can make. Some of the lists might be, things that you've imported, or maybe you've created a specific list over in the OPAC. Maybe you've created a list that only certain students can check out, like Battle of the Books, and only students in a certain grade level or only certain patrons can check those out. So this is where you create your collections. Of course, that help button is going to give you a lot more information than I can right here. Status codes, you've never really had the ability to create your own status codes. You were pretty much, at the mercy of using the ones that we created, like in, out. I think we had some out for repair, that type of thing. But now you can create your own custom statuses if you need to. Conditions, we looked at that for just a moment over in the circulation section. This is where you set up the condition, and then the damages is where you can say how much you're going to charge for a damage, and you're not stuck with just these. You can create your own damage, call it the dog ate it, charge $2 for it or whatever, and then these options will be available to you when you're setting those conditions and damages over in the circulation section. Any templates that you've created will come over. Marked fields, this is just where you can look at the various marked fields as before. Reserved barcodes is new. If you order materials shelf ready from a vendor, or you get them, you get the vendor to send you the MARC records with barcode numbers already assigned or whatever, you can come over here and you can say, I am going to assign bound to say bound a range of barcodes, and the system will reserve those so that when you are manually entering books and you just let the system assign the next highest barcode number, it will not use one of these numbers that you have reserved. Now, if you physically went in there and typed that number in, it's going to assume that you're doing that for a reason, and it will let you use that. So keep in mind that this is just reserving it so that you can say, okay, I'm going to call Bound to Stay Bound and tell them that they can use 778 to 1277, and when they run out, I will assign them some more. And that's just a matter of editing this and telling which ones you want to assign. You can come up here and you can delete that if they're all used, and then you can say, okay, I want to add Bound to Stay Bound again. I can tell it to find a range of X number of barcodes that are available if I want them. Want it to find that list for me. Just find me, I'm going to order 50 books. Let's go ahead and give them a range of 100, name the vendor, and then it found a range of 100. You don't have to have it find a range. You can assign that yourself if you look in the unused barcode report. But this is just a nice little feature so that you can kind of keep up with who you have assigned ranges to. I used to put it on sticky notes and put it on the wall next to my desk, so this is a lot more convenient. All right, setting up your patrons. Nothing really different about that than what you're used to using. Same thing with circulation. This is your circulation rules, your calendar, final due dates. Everybody that switches to cloud will get self-check. Self-check is super easy. It's real in your face. It just says, what do you want to do? You're allowed to let students check out books and check in books, or just check out books, totally up to you. but this is where you just choose a few settings for self-check. Receipts, I mentioned earlier that when you finish with a patron, that you can click switch patron or hit escape, and it will go find or go email. It will email them a receipt telling them what they have out. This is where you can tell that to happen automatically. You can tell it to alert you if the patron does not have an email. If you don't want it to happen automatically and you click upon request, then you will get a little button that says print or send receipt, and then you would have to click on that each time. If you don't want to email them, but you just want to print them, then you need to have a compatible printer to do that. Again, click the help button. You'll get a lot of information for that. You get to decide what is on that receipt. So if I was going to automatically send out email notices every time somebody checked out, then I could tell it what I wanted to include on that receipt. I also have control over the text that's on the receipt. We've moved some of the settings for the online catalog, previously called Safari, now just called Cloud OPAC, and this is where you can set some of those functions and features. Looks very similar to what you would have seen if you logged on to the Safari catalog. It's just over here now in the administrative module. All right, security. Oh, I've mentioned roles a couple of times. If you click on roles and you see the roles that we have, they'll be pretty self-explanatory. You, as the administrator, will have a check mark beside every function in Surpass because you're the administrator and you get to do everything. However, if you wanted to set somebody as, say, a circulation clerk, or you could create parent volunteer, and then you get to say what that person does, then you will see that there are X's beside a lot of things that we don't want that person to do. But here under circulation, you can say they can check out books, they can check in books, they can renew. Do you want them to be able to override a patron's account? Do you want them to be able to override maximum limits? If you want to change any of that, then just click there and say, you know what, I don't want them to be able to do that. Click save, and then you have edited what they can do. All right. That is pretty much the new stuff with Surpass Cloud. There'll be a separate video on just a real quick overview of the OPAC. It's not a lot different as far as how you edit it, but I'll do a quick video on that, or we may even have some videos in our video library that show that coming up soon. So if you have any questions, you get stuck on something, you aren't quite sure, click help with this page, navigate through the help documentation, call our support team. I promise we will be able to answer your questions one way or the other. So contact support, email, chat, call them. If you want their phone number, you click here and there's their phone number. help@surpasssupport.com is where you would get the help. If you wanted to chat live with somebody, you're going to click here and it will open a chat dialogue with somebody at the support office. Okay, welcome to Surpass Cloud. Enjoy all the new features. Thank you and have a great day.